Well, hello and welcome. So, when is a seventh chord not a seventh chord? Don't worry, all will be revealed. But first, I'd like to talk to you about three chords that add additional harmonic considerations to our music. They are taken from other modes and just simply dropped into major. Why would we want to do this? I don't know, perhaps to create additional and interesting harmonies in our music. I'm referring to the flat 2, the 4 minor, and the flat 6 chords, often referred to as the augmented 6 group, but more about that shortly. What makes these chords so unique is that they resolve by chromatic half step to one of the notes of the triad of the 1 chord, the tonic chord. So if we were in the key of C, we're talking about resolving onto either C, E, or G. But I think most of you just really want to know how it works. So without further ado, why don't we go to the keyboard and find out? Remember, the uniqueness of the flat 2, 4 minor, and flat 6 group of chords is that they all easily go directly to the tonic chord. Now, before we get into when a seventh is not a seventh, perhaps we should revisit how a seventh works. Here's my trusty C chord. When I add a seventh, I create a dominant 5 chord. It activates the chord and provides forward movement, especially when the seventh falls to A, the third of F. I've just created an authentic cadence 5-1 in the key of F. Or the seventh could fall to A flat, the minor third in the case of F minor. 5 chords can and often do go to a chord which is not the tonic chord. The seventh still falls onto 1, 3, or 5 of the chord in question. Now, when this happens, it's referred to as a deceptive cadence. For example, C7 could move to D minor, the 6th chord in the key of F, with the 7th falling onto the 5th, the 5 of D minor. Or perhaps the 7th could go to A minor, the 3 chord in F, with the 7th dropping directly onto the root of A minor. However, there are times when the 7th will resolve passively. In other words, it doesn't move at all. The rest of the harmony drops by step instead of the 7th. So here I have a C7, the 7th remains stationary, the chord drops by half step to, in this case, a B major 7. The 7th of C becomes the major 7 of B. This would be referred to as a flat 2 going to 1 in B major. At this point, I'll only be using the key of C in my examples of these 3 chords, which should make it a little easier for the majority of you to follow what I'm doing. In the case of C, D minor is the 2 chord. In the case of C Phrygian, D flat is the 2 chord. By the way, in all the modes, this is the only chord that is a half tone above its tonic 1 chord. So anyway, we take this D flat chord, this flat 2 chord, and we bring it into C major and incorporate it as part of our group of chords. So this D minor chord will be a 2 chord, and this will be the flat 2 chord. Now, what happens when I add a 7th? Or is it a 7th? If I try to resolve this 7th downward by step, it doesn't land on 1, 3, 5 of C. If, on the other hand, I were to make the 7th an augmented 6, which is the same note on the keyboard, it will resolve because the raised 6 now moves by step upward to C. What am I talking about? Let's take a look. Here's the D flat scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to sharpen that 6 to B natural. So I'm not looking at this as a 7th, but a raised 6. It does rise by a step to C, the tonic of the 1 chord. So what do we call this new chord with an augmented or sharp 6? Which symbol should we use? The +6 the augmented 6 or the sharp 6? Well, the short answer is none of the above. Why confuse the issue when most musicians understand the concept of a seventh symbol, in this case, D flat 7? After all, many musicians don't understand the concept that sevenths fall by steps and augmented 6 chords resolve upward by step, and the general public certainly could care less how the chord resolves as long as the music sounds good to them. So when I play the flat 2 chord, in this case D flat in the key of C, when I add the B natural, the augmented 6, question is, will it always rise to the root of the 1 chord as the flat 2 chord falls to the tonic chord? Basically, yes. But don't forget, I could be looking at this as a 7th, which I know is supposed to fall, but in this case I could look at it as a passive 7th, which means that the 7th resolves when the rest of the chord drops by step, in this case onto the 1 chord. So here, this is acting as a 7th on D flat, becomes a major 7th on the C chord. By the way, one last look at the 7th chord is that a 7th can fall to another 7th by step. Basically a chromatic step, because that could then fall again onto the A, the 7th of B, onto A flat, the 7th of B flat, so on and so forth. F minor is also referred to as an alt chord because the major third is altered to the minor third. But make no mistake about it, this F minor chord comes from one of 3 modes. It is the 4 chord of the Dorian, Aeolian, and Phrygian mode. When I add a D sharp, you can hear it activating the chord. It wants to push that up. More than likely it's going to resolve on the 3rd of C. But I could look at it also as a 7th, whole tone below the root, falling to the 7th of E minor. And E minor, being the 3 chord in C, can also substitute for a 1 chord in C. The A flat is the 6th chord in 2 modes, C Aeolian and C Phrygian. The 6th chord in our Ionian major mode is A minor. If I want to make it a flat 6, I just simply drop down onto the A flat chord. If I activate it with an augmented 6, the F sharp in this case, it will more than likely resolve upward to the 5th of the C chord. But I could look at it as a G flat, a 7th, which more than likely will fall to the 7th of the 5 chord, and more than likely again will drop 3rd of the 1 chord. I'm going to just play a few bars here that incorporates the flat 6, the minor 4, and the flat 2 chord using augmented 6s resolving, and I'm going to point them out as we go. So starting off with my trusty C, 1 chord to 6. There's my F sharp, resolving upward to the 5th of the 1 chord. Now I make the melody on the 4 minor chord, the D sharp, my augmented 6, rising to the 3rd of the 1 chord, 2, D minor 9, D flat 7, augmented 9, there's my augmented 6, the B natural, stepping up to the root of the 1 chord, flat 6, introduce the augmented 6, it's not going to fall, it's going to come up to the 5th of the 1 chord, and there you have it. You know, no doubt there'll be some of you saying to yourself, oh, why does it matter what you call a 7th? I could care less whether it resolves up or down. Fair enough. However, if you're involved in part writing, choral arrangements, logical voice leading is imperative. But more importantly, understanding the concept of how things work opens the mind up to all kinds of possibilities. By incorporating the augmented sixth group into your music with full understanding of how they interact with their diatonic cousins creates all kinds of possibilities that are limited only by the amount of imagination you possess. So until next time, my best to you in your music endeavors. Bye for now.